Welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be breaking down a super mellow, chilled out R&B beat for Frank Ocean. I could definitely hear this being used as a track on Blonde, but yeah, let's get straight into the video. So I started off with some very melodic, relaxed chords. I literally opened up Lounge Lizard. This is the very first preset. I didn't change anything. I just went straight in and laid down the chords. Lately, I've been trying to actually play the keys a lot more on my samples and beats. And a trick I've been using is starting off with a counter melody and playing chords underneath it. I feel like it helps give me a direction and allows me to come up with unique, different progressions. I'll show you guys the counter melody later, but for now, let's start with these chords. Very, very simple. As you can see, just 3-note chords. So it's an A sharp major chord, F major chord, and a C major chord. Obviously, having 3 major chords helps it sound very mellow and melodic, but because the progression is going down, it still gives you that kind of sad, mellow sound. That has no effects on, just an EQ cutting some low end out. After that, I went into Contact. I knew I wanted to add a flute sound, but I wanted to manipulate it quite a lot. So this is the Ventus Ethnic Winds. It's an ocarina sound, so it's very soft, nice flute. Initially, I had a whole counter melody, which is what I based the chords around, but I ended up taking most of it out and just leaving this little run at the end. And that sounds like this. That has a bunch of effects on it because I really wanted to make it sound completely different. Started with this reverb. It's called reversed rhythm, so it has a bit of texture to it. Then a medium-sized vintage verb, a standard halftime, a cassette with the crushed preset. I love to put this on these types of sound. When you have a soft sound and you add this to it, it gives a nice little bit of crunch to it without doing too much and sounding too weird. An EQ cutting some low end out and some of these mid-range frequencies. And finally, I added a Portal, the Dreamy Music Box preset. I brought the dry wet down to about 50%, and now it sounds like this. In this beat, I wanted to combine real instruments and some synthy kind of sounds as well. So I found this Bell synth from 5 and XY's one-shot kit. I added a pretty heavy delay and a medium-sized spring reverb to it, and that sounds like this. So next I wanted to add another real instrument. I knew I wanted to add some strings into this. So I found this free violin Contact Bank. It's from pianobook.co.uk. If you saw my video on that, definitely go check the website out. It's super fire for free banks. You have to pay anything. To this, I added a good Hertz low-hi just to cut some high end out and kind of drown the sound out a bit. And a very heavy Valhalla vintage verb. Another thing that I did was put it almost fully into mono and then I panned it to the right. This is so it has its own space in the mix. I found when it was stereo, it was filling too much space and I wanted to have its own little pocket. So I just played in this very simple counter melody. Before we carry on, today's video is sponsored by distrokid. As you guys know, distrokid allows you to get your music onto all streaming platforms, whether that's Apple Music, Spotify, even TikTok. Once you've uploaded your music, you're going to want to find ways to promote it. That's where distrokid comes in again. You can create promo cards and even mini music videos completely for free to post on your Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, etc. There's also a couple of paid features that you can use on distrokid. You can use a service called Visi, which creates a music video for your song, and you can even choose to have lyric videos created. And finally, there's a feature called Social Phone, which lets you directly message your listeners. So if you guys aren't already signed up for distrokid, hit the link in the description. That's going to get you 7% off your first year membership. And yeah, let's get back into the video. So next I wanted to start adding some textures to the beat. So I found this perk loop from one of Only One's kits. I chopped it up a little bit so there's some spaces here and there. I also just added a bandpass EQ and a medium-sized reverb. Again, it's very subtle, but I feel like that's the key to Frank Ocean's beats. They're all very simple. Some of them are literally just one instrument and him singing over the top. Another textural element I added is this water stream sound effect. I turned the volume really far down and I also cut out some of the low end because there's just pointless having it in there. Next, I added a bass sound, so I opened up mono bass and found this muted, plucked bass. Now without any effects on, it sounds like this. For the bass, I added an amplitude. I used the underwater bass preset. It sounded really good and fit this vibe perfectly. And then just an EQ to cut some of the muddiness out. You can hear how much of a difference that reverb on the bass adds. It gives it a super unique sound. For one final melodic element, I added a piano on top. This actually came up as an ad on my Instagram and I thought, oh, this sounds really fire. So I downloaded it. It's called Postcard Piano by Teletone Audio. Just a really nice sounding piano. It doesn't sound too clean. It's got some character to it. You can mess around with the age, so it detunes it. You can turn it mono or stereo. You can add noise, the pedal noise, distortion, stuff like that. I wanted to separate it from the Rhodes, so I added this EQ, cutting the low end and cutting some high end as well. A Volv compressor just to tighten the sound up a bit, a vintage verb, and finally a Valhalla delay. Next, I moved on to the drums. I wanted to do some very minimalistic textural drums. First of all, I started with this rim shot. I just pitched it down by 2 semitones. Then really I was just messing around with things and I added a delay to it. Now I brought the wet down, I brought the level down, put a low pass on it and brought the cutoff down so when the delay hits, it's not keeping all the high frequencies in. And I also brought down these 2 knobs, so the sample rate. It gives it almost like a bit crushed sound and I thought it sounded really cool and added to the whole vibe of the beat. After that, I added this stick sound underneath it. You can hardly even hear that, but it just adds a little bit more depth to the snare. I actually added 2 kicks to this beat. This is the first one. And this is the second one. It's much lighter and more textural. And then finally for the drums, I added this very light hi-hat. For the roll at the end, I selected 1/3 steps and just made it roll slightly differently, so it's a bit off and a bit weird. I also added a fruity phaser to that, just to give it a little bit of a more unique sound. So yeah, that's my attempt at a Frank Ocean style beat. I'm really happy with how this one came out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and a comment, let me know what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next one.